You guys know that's my favorite. My favorite part of the whole stream is that beginning hype music, as I like to call it. Until I get a real intro, you guys, we're gonna stick with that. That gets everybody in the mood. It gets everybody anxious. No one knows what to expect. So, anyways, how's the sound? Is the sound coming in? Mic check, everybody. How are we? How are we? Welcome in as you guys start rolling in. Let me do the admin stuff before we get started. You guys, I really appreciate you always supporting, coming in. As you know, every Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, that's going to be our official show time, as you guys know. And then as we have some emergency streams, some important things come up, you guys, I will jump on and do a stream super last minute. But so as you know, every Wednesday, you guys also, please, if you haven't already, follow me on these social media accounts. I hate social media with a passion, but I have to do it. It's a necessary evil, as some might add. Instagram is the best way to reach me. TikTok, I struggle on there, but every now and then I'll get a good video off. Facebook is good as well. And I can't stand Twitter. I feel like it's the devil's playground. And so, where are we at today, you guys? Listen, welcome. As you know, this is the real Nathan Daley, and I'm your law enforcement translator, you guys. I'm here to provide insight on these difficult topics involving law enforcement and current event issues. You guys, I'm here to provide a different perspective. I used to say I'm the only one on YouTube who's giving you guys the raw, honest truth. And I have to say, I've met my match. I absolutely met my match, you guys. We have a special guest tonight. And I am completely grateful and honored to be able to introduce him. Before we get into that, real quick, you guys, too. So everybody knows about the whole Jeffrey Dahmer situation. It's been very interesting to see a lot of people's reaction in reference to that. And I've been contemplating doing a review with respect. I always have to say with respect to the victims and those who have tragically lost life behind that incident. But I want to examine the police response, not necessarily the show itself, but the police response. So what I wanted to get you guys is opinion and perspective on it before I decide to do it, simply because it's such a sensitive topic. So just keep that in mind. I'll probably drop something in the community tab later this week to get you guys' response. If you're interested in wanting to see a breakdown on the law enforcement response or to that situation, it would be a great conversation to have. But we definitely want to make sure we're being respectful to the victims in that situation as well. So, anyways, you guys. So tonight, here's the thing, right? I think all too often we have these conversations about law enforcement, and we never have it with other law enforcement officers. The policing situation in this country is very sensitive. The race relations between law enforcement, especially in certain police departments, certain states, cities, are very fragile. Some are completely broken. A lot of people think they have the answers. A lot of people think they are going in the right direction. A lot of people are pushing policy, and none of the policies make any sense. Why is that? Because they're not talking to the people who actually do the job. And I think that's where the biggest disconnect is. You have to talk to people who are doing the job, and not just that, people who are sincere, people who are genuine, people who are honest and willing to give you the raw truth without any type of pushback. No fear, right? You can't try to bring about change and then be afraid to change it, right? You can't. Like, I think that's the biggest problem that we have, especially within law enforcement. There's a fear there. People are afraid to push against the norm, to push against the culture, and some people struggle with the ability to reimagine what policing could look like in this country. And a lot of people don't like when a mirror is put in front of them. I believe if you really are about change, then you're also about transparency, and you're not afraid to expose things that make us all uncomfortable. I do it a lot in this channel, you guys. I told myself when I started this channel that I was going to be completely open and transparent, because that's where the change is going to come from. And with trust, you have to be willing to open up. And I think this is what I love most about our guest tonight, you guys, is the rawness, the realness, the transparency. He's also an author, Detective Matt Thornton. You guys, we're gonna dive into his story, his background. Amazing story, phenomenal testimony that he has to offer tonight, you guys. And I'm very honored to be able to share a screen with him and have these discussions. We're going to talk about a lot. Nothing's off the table, you guys. You know how we do here. Feel free to ask away. We're going to have a good time tonight. And I'm going to allow him to do his introduction, you guys. He has an amazing story. If you saw the trailer's amazing. It's so dark and gritty. It gives you like this whole. I was watching. I thought I was going to get into a whole movie, right? Like it's just a. But this is someone's life that we're about to discuss, and his journey. And I love as you saw on the thumbnail, the whole idea is finding light through the darkness. I have my own experiences with that in this profession, you guys, and so I think this is the perfect opportunity to have this conversation. And listen, without further ado, my guest, Detective Matt Thornton, you guys, I promise you will not be disappointed. How you doing, brother? How are you doing?
My man, I'm good. I'm doing good, man. That I love that trailer. That the build up,
Isn't that nice?
Oh my gosh, you hear my palms sweating. Like, man, this is like a rocket launch, a space shuttle launch.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It gets everybody every time, man. It gets them every time.
Yeah.
Man. So let me just say again, thank you so much. Right. I don't think for those who do know you, for those who don't know you, you have a very powerful voice in your community, within your police department. You're still an active law enforcement officer, and also here on social media. You're a TikTok superstar. YouTube. Let me before you give your introduction, let me tell people how I found you. So I was minding my business one day on YouTube, and I think I had just dropped a police video, and then one of your videos got recommended, and it was in reference to a case. I forgot. It was something that was going on at the time, and you commented on it on a TikTok. You did a TikTok video of it, and basically it was something along the effects of officers need to do better, and here's where we make mistakes, or something like that. And man, I watched it, and I think your video did almost like 1 million views. Something crazy. And I said, wow, I can't believe this is an officer saying this, and we don't see that often. And so I started looking at more of your content, and then I found out about your nonprofit, man, and then I found out about your story, and then I was completely blown away. And then I was trying to reach you as best I could. I had to go through your secretary, and then I had to send a couple.
Yeah, right. That's my sister. My sister's the only thing close to a secretary. She's yelling at me all the time.
Oh, that's cool, man. But I appreciate you, man. I reached out. I appreciate you just wanting to have the conversation, man. Listen, thank you. Truly a blessing. Tell the people who you are, and let's dive into it from there.
I'm just blown away that you would find me, know who I am, and then reach out. I'm honored to be here. I've seen some of the stuff that you're doing, and like we are like kindred spirits. Like we share the same thoughts on so many different levels. My name is Matt Thornton. I've been an officer in the city that I'm from. My city's called Zion. We're outside of Chicago. Speaking of, we're like really literally almost halfway in between Chicago and Milwaukee. So that Jeffrey Dahmer stuff. I'm very familiar with that. That happened right up the street from me. So, yeah, that's I just finished that series myself. So that's gonna be good stuff to talk about. I had a lot of issues with that case. But yeah, I was a detective. I was really this job got the best of me because my path to being a cop was very unlikely. Never intended to be one. Had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And when I did get into it, I couldn't handle it. So I saw so much wrong with it. And then I found that number one, first and foremost, God saved me out of the madness that I was in. That's what my book is kind of about. And since then, I've learned how to. He's kind of showed me how to use the badge that I really didn't like at all to glorify Him. And that's why I felt the need. Like there's so much stuff going on. I got to be more vocal about this. I got to start calling some of this out. Who cares who doesn't like it? Because you are going against the culture. You're petting the cat hair the wrong way, and people they're not comfortable with that. But that's fine. I've taken that kind of the new motto is I don't answer to any man. I tell the truth the best that I know it and the best that I understand. I answer to God in the long run,
Yes.
and that's really what I've learned is the truth. Because I always say this: a lot of my heroes growing up weren't the same heroes as other cops were. So I've kind of marched to a different drumbeat throughout my whole life and career. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at. And I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful that I'm able to have sort of a platform. I got grounded from TikTok for a little bit.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, I got a new job in the schools. So I haven't made a video in about 3 weeks
Mhm.
because I made one at the school district. It was, my sense of humor. Not everybody understands it. So
Right.
this, so I told
Right.
Chief, okay, I'll stay off there just for a few weeks. I'll let that die down. But yeah, I love TikTok just because it kind of gives you a voice. It
Yes,
kind
it
of
does.
people notice it. TikTok is more. It's not local. TikTok is like it's all over the world.
International. Yep.
Um, yeah. So that's why I enjoy that, and I agree with you a lot though. There's so much negativity on social media. I'm with you on that. I have to do it because I gotta look at it as I gotta try to do some good on there with all the evil on there. So
Yes. Yeah. It's hard. It's definitely hard. What age did you start policing?
I was 29 my first year, 29, 28 or 29. I was always one of the older ones at the academy.
Okay. Okay. And how many years in law enforcement do you have altogether? So
I've been there 18 years. So
dang. Okay.
yeah, I'm getting up
Yeah.
there.
See, what's
Yeah.
you don't look it, man. You're aging good.
I think I moisturize.
I think I started when I was 20, 21,
Hmm.
and I feel like I was way too young. I think 20 is way too young to be an officer. At the time, you don't know that, right? You're just going in there, you're having a good time, you're living your life, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and the job is fun. It's fun. It's extremely dangerous. But when we talk about, and I think we're going to get into this in this interview, is just kind of the mentality, right? The maturity of being an officer, the maturity of being able to handle the things that come at you when
Hmm.
you're actually doing the job. And I believe that what helped me, what kept me grounded was my family. I always say the three F's:
Hmm.
faith, family, and friends.
Yeah.
And those things kept me grounded. It kept me rooted. It helped me filter out that ego problem that a lot of officers get. But to be completely honest with you, I believe that the early 20s, way too early to be
Oh,
an officer. What do you?
that's that. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah,
Our frontal lobes don't even develop fully until we're like 24.
it's true.
Um, I could take a 21-year-old right now. I can tell him how to act. I can mold him. I could mentor him. He's going to do whatever an old guy like me comes and tells him to do. He's going to follow whatever you say,
Yes.
and that's dangerous.
Yep.
It's impressionable, and right off the bat, y'all 21-year-olds were the ones getting us in trouble at the academy. I remember that because I mean the maturity level is still not there.
Not there.
But I agree, and I really do. I've been saying that for quite a while. I mean, if we can mold them or find a different way to change up some of the ways that we train from the get go, I
Yeah.
think we could solve a lot of issues.
True, 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 true.
Mhm.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I think, and before we dive further, I want to put your nonprofit up. I definitely want to get into that on how you got started with the nonprofit. Also, your Instagram for those who want to check you out. IG at My Father's Business, and also the
Mhm.
website my mfbyouth.org, and then your email as well for those who want to reach out. I'll have it up and down throughout the stream. Let's talk about your nonprofit. I was very, very impressed. I also have a nonprofit. Yours is definitely we're both community oriented, but yours
Mhm.
is directed to the youth. Tell the people about your nonprofit and what led you to get started in this area, and then just overall the progression and how it's going.
So, um, the Lord saved me in 2013 after a long battle with depression and suicide and all the mess that I was in. And about a year later, I went under the mentorship of a pastor. His name was George. George Schleif is his name, and he mentored me for about a year, and then he was like, you know what, you know a lot of people in your city. My city's a rather small city. It's a violent city, but it's small small in numbers. He said, you know so many people. Why don't you start an organization? And I really didn't want to. Because I was new. I had a brand new life, a new look at things, and he kind of bullied me into doing it. So I always tease him to this day. So I finally, to get him off my back, I brought in my son and five of his friends. They're all freshmen in high school, and there was an old beat up gym in the city in the church. So I said, okay, you guys come and shoot some hoops. I'll buy you food, and then maybe I'll read a verse to you or something. Because I
Mm.
didn't know how to do any of this stuff. I thought it was going to be a couple times, and the pastor will be done bugging me, and that would be it. So first week we had it, cost me $10, two Caesar's pizzas, and I read a couple of things. I couldn't even tell you what I read. So the next week they said, let's have it again. They begged me, so we'll do it again. All right, so we had 10 people this time, and then I didn't want to do it anymore because I was kind of like not knowing how to do any of this stuff, and I really didn't want to take up more time, my time, because your schedules are so hectic as a cop. But pastor wouldn't let me. He wouldn't let me. He just like, no, you're gonna do this.
Mm.
So after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, pretty soon, within 2 months, you couldn't fit another kid in that gym, and they were all looking at me a certain way. They were all asking me a question, so I had to kind of develop a lesson plan that I give them every week. I let them just come, and they shoot hoops, and we feed everybody. But the main thing is we just started mentoring and getting to know every kid one at a time.
Right.
And with me and my sisters, like, man, there's so many kids here every week. Let's just make this a thing. So we developed a name. We called it My Father's Business, and what it ended up being is really the government. I guess they consider us a drop-in center. So it turned into all the kids from the neighborhood found out about my there's this church that you hoop at. We can get food too. So that's kind of what brings them in. And we
Yeah,
don't we
yeah.
don't turn we don't turn anybody down.
Right.
We take some of these kids. I know that are shooting. I know that are dealing. I know that are doing robbing people. We don't care. I've always had that mind state where I get to look at them and in a loving way, um, let them know I was just as broken as you are. So
Mm.
and I get to teach them that there's only one hope, and that's through the Lord. And so every week we have just a ton of kids coming in, and we call it My Father's Business. We've turned it like a 7-day a week thing now. We try to get them jobs. We do interventions. We try to cancel out street beefs and sit people down. There's really, you name it, we try to do it. So I have a solid team, and it's just become like a thing in my city. It's a huge deal. Our logos everywhere, all over the city. We got a lot of local support, a lot of funds that come in from some corporate support now, so we can take care of things that give them things that they normally wouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, if a kid can't walk the stage, if a kid doesn't have money to play ball, if a kid don't have shoes, if his lights are off at the house, we can, we have resources, we can help you. So it's really just a jack of all trades, and we've had so many, I mean, so many stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Thousands and thousands of kids have come through. Great stories, heartbreaking stories too. You get to learn and love every one of them like your own child. So your heart will get broken. And
Yeah, I actually I had the pleasure of, reading your book. For
mhm.
those, let me just put it up here real quick. This is your book. First of all, amazing book, right? Amazing book, you guys. I put the information in the description section, you guys, to his website, where you can go and also get a book, you guys. Phenomenal book, from cop in crisis to cop in Christ. And I I feel like I'm chasing after your shadow now, right? Like I now you got me motivated now. Like I want to write about my story as well. But you have a phenomenal story, truly blessed, and also you're a blessing to a lot of young kids, right? An entire community. This is what people don't get a chance to see. Officers who are actually making a difference, right? They don't see the officers that are doing the great things, and a lot of us are, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we have the media against us in some cases, and even it doesn't take much of a bad officer to give us all a bad name. But
Mhm.
I've seen more officers such as yourself who are making sacrifices, who are donating, giving, volunteering their time, even donating into different causes and helping out and things of that nature. I see more of that than I see what's actually being played on the media. And so I just want to say, one, thank you for the work that you're doing, um, on the job, off the job. and also being a mentor, and even somewhat of a father to a lot of these kids who don't have one.
Mhm.
And so, thank you for that. That's definitely it. Unfortunately, it goes unnoticed on the media side, but I know it's making a huge impact. And it's funny, the name Zion, right, is
Mhm.
you work in Zion, right? And in the book, before I get into your backstory, real quick, the book, there's a chapter in there called demographics,
Mhm.
and I will say this: what I love about, let me touch this thing here, see if it, what I love about your book is the transparency. It's, if I could describe it, I would say it's like a memoir of truth and transparency, and but from the lens of someone who is sincere, who's genuine, and has a passion and a love to be a servant of others. And I feel like that's what I got from the book. And I love how genuine you are in the statements that you make. It's almost as if we're having a conversation. And I really, really enjoyed the information that you provided and also that you shared. So again, demographics. You talk about Zion and you talk about the environment, policing
Mhm.
in this community. Can you describe to us, explain to us what this community is like as far as the demographics are concerned, even like the crime and the things that you've experienced as an officer there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a city I grew up in. I love Zion. I was a ball player at the high school, so that's why basketball is the common denominator. Because I was,
Right.
believe it or not, I was a really good ball player back in
Oh,
my
you can
day. No,
ball?
no, yeah, oh yeah, none of them. I was the starting point guard for Zion. I'm very proud of that. None of the kids believe that because I'm so old and slow now. But yeah, um, Zion, we have like 25,000 people, small city, but we have a like 35% of the entire county is Section 8, which is the housing that lives in
Mm,
our city. And unfortunately, there's some beautiful, beautiful people, 98%, but it does bring the crime element because it's single mother housing generally.
yeah.
And so we see a lot of a lot of them are Chicago transplants. And so we see a lot of big city crime. And but the demographics in our city has kind of changed from like half white, half black to now it's about a third Hispanic, black, and white.
Mm,
So the open air drug market is really bad in our city. I always give the statistic just for the need and how, because everyone thinks that this is just a small city, but like since 2017, my little small nonprofit, we've had since 2017. I stopped keeping statistics because it would just make me cry.
yeah.
Um, we've had almost 50 kids now hit by gunfire since 2017 in our small little city.
Wow.
And that the 50 kids that are a part of my group, not just
Right.
50 kids altogether, 50 kids that I have mentored, um, and many of them have passed. And so the it's so needed. That's why we choose Friday nights to bring.
Right.
It's our highest crime rate night. So we
Get
that's
them
where
off
we
the
open
street.
our doors. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But Zion is also, it's not all crime. We have so many beautiful people and so many intriguing things about our city. Our mayor is former NBA players, Billy McKinney.
Okay.
He played with Michael, and people. I always mess with. I was like, Mayor. Most people ask their mayor about the city budget or how many jobs you created. I go up and I ask you who was harder to guard, Magic or Michael, and he can tell me. Like he's
Yeah. Yeah.
grounded on both. So we have a very interesting city. Gary Coleman was actually from my city, from Different Strokes, and
Mm,
yeah, so we have such a cool little group of people. Yeah, we have our issues, but I love our city, like with a passion. I grew up there. I love the people of our city, and I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive that I get to just like in some way, shape, or form make a difference to some young people in our city. And
absolutely.
yeah, it's I really I can't stress that enough that I'm just blessed, and it's my honor to just serve back, and I think that was my purpose.
So speaking of purpose, though, how did your relationship with God come into play, right? In all this, I think. Um, Now I know because I read the book, but for
Hmm.
the people listening who are learning about you for the first time, can you walk us back to the moment where God intervened? What was life for Matt before um, you've come to this renewed place where you are truly a blessing to so many people. Can you walk us back?
Yeah. But the mental health side of policing is just so underrated and so not talked about. I love that we're talking about it more, but I fell I fell right into the that life. I've never been a dirty cop. I've never violated anybody's rights. Never hurt anybody. I've
Mhm.
always just loved people. I didn't get this job to be part of some fraternity. I got the job because I love people.
Right.
But I didn't know how to handle the other stuff when I got the job. Um, all the carnage that I've seen. I've seen so
Yes.
many people. Being that it's my city I was raised in, I had a lot of issues with the way that the police treated the people.
Mhm.
I didn't expect any of that. It was a shocker to me. I referenced a few times that I hated police growing up. That was very true, but I was like, when I got and I saw some things from the inside, I'm like, man, it's really this bad. As far as the police and citizens, they really teach you to be us against them. I don't want any
Correct.
part of that. Like I feel like I'm one of them if that's how it is. So I didn't know how to handle it at first, and I really, if you mix that with being kind of ostracized because I was unlikely cop, a lot of guys didn't want me there because I had somewhat of a criminal background, criminal charges in my background,
Mm.
and I never went to school for this. I was just barely past high school, so I was not popular right from the get go at my PD. A lot of guys didn't want me there because that dealt with me. Some of them had dealt with me growing up. So that you combine all that, but the other thing was just seeing the people that you grew up and loved treated bad, die in front of you, um, and not doing well, and it seemed like I was the only one that cared a lot of times. So I had no idea how to handle that stress, and I took it up just by drinking, and I was made to think from the time I knew, this that facade, that phony facade that you got to put up, and don't talk about being weak, don't talk about being sad, don't talk about being bothered by stuff. You internalize it.
Right.
Um, so that's where I was. I was an alcoholic, but basically not an alcoholic, but like a horrible drunk. I wrecked my first marriage, did some terrible things on my personal life. I gave into every temptation that you possibly could with having power, um, womanizing, just the typical things that cop. Because you're like a mini celebrity, and you can
Yes.
you can use that for evil if
Yes.
you do, and that's basically what I did. And it led me on this dark, depressing path, and depression set in. I became um, basically addicted to prescription pills to deal with the pain, to sleep, to deal with everything. It did everything but like actually ask for help.
Mm.
And in short, out of fear of being outed for that, some people were starting to find out about my mental state. I didn't want to. I didn't want to have my identity removed. I didn't want to admit that I was weak. I would rather die than have my identity removed. So I came up with a suicide plan that was very direct, that was typed out and drawn out like an offensive scheme in a football game. I knew exactly the plays that I was going to run. I knew exactly how I was going to do it, who was going to find me, who I was going to call last, and had it all written out and planned. It was pretty grotesque. Um, and one night when you're alone and you know that this is what you're planning to do, you just cry when you're by yourself, when
Hmm.
you're that manic. And one night I was literally was I could honestly say it was my lowest night ever. It was a January night in 2013, and I was sitting in my squad in on a very very terribly cold winter night in the Chicagoland. The wind was just howling off the lake, and I just knew that nobody was going to bother me that night. It was a midnight shift, and I was just in my squad, alone in a parking lot, dwelling on this plan, crying, and just running it through my head. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to call, and it's not going to hurt because I'd already practiced it. Like I said in that video, I had already decided exactly what I was going to do. So I'm crying to myself, going over this plan, and then some lady comes out in the parking lot in this terrible cold weather, and she starts walking towards me. I just become instantly angry. Like, man, why are you walking towards this squad? I'm way over here. What are you doing out in this weather? Um, I don't want to be bothered. So sure enough, she comes right towards me. And I rolled down my window. I was even rude because I didn't even roll down my window. I just rolled it down just so I wiped my tears away, rolled it down just a couple inches. and she just hands me something, and didn't know what it was. I grabbed it, and she said, "You need this." And she turned around and walked away, didn't say another word. And I opened my hand, and I realized that what she handed me was this red cross. And I've never felt something so surreal. Like, okay, in this unlikely night, at this unlikely time, this lady brings me this, and it was no doubt in my mind that it was God talking to me. It was the Lord, and I literally in my squad, and I didn't tell this story for like a long time because I thought people would think, no, they're not gonna believe me. They think I'm crazy, but this really did happen. Like I screamed out to God. I said, "You have to do something. Save me. I know you're there. This is you. This is you talking. Um, can you help me?" And it sometimes I get emotional saying this when I heard God talk to me back, and I don't know if it was audible, it was just in my head, but Jesus told me that I got this sense that he has been there this entire time when I'm doing all this self-destructive stuff. He's seen it all, and he said he would forgive me. Just stop what you're doing and follow me.
Mm.
And it was the most surreal moment of my life. There's never been anything close to it. At that moment, I finally got on the phone. I called my sister, who I knew worked for a church, and that was the pastor George I referred to. And I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I know you have a pastor there. Something crazy just happened to me. I got to get in there. So that was where the next morning she got me in, and I gave my life to the Lord. And it's crazy because what he told me when I walked in there, I had never talked really out loud about all my issues. My sister knew, and a couple people close to me knew. But I walk in there, and Pastor, who I'd never met, he said, I introduced myself, and he said, I know who you are, and I know all about you. He said that, he said, your sister has been coming to me crying, and we've been praying for a supernatural occurrence to happen in your life. And it was just so shocking and crazy to hear him say that. And I said, oh, I think you got your supernatural occurrence. So here I am.
Mm.
And that was the most, like I said, the most surreal thing that's ever happened. And that was when I kind of started, and it wasn't instantaneous. It was when I started to, when you repent, you kind of try to do a 180. You change directions, and I got to the root of what was causing all my pain, practically, spiritually. I wanted to find out, and so I went on this journey, like to find out who. Okay, this God who I never knew shows up. Who are you? Why did you come see me? And so I started asking all kind of questions, digging into scripture, digging into why would something like this happen, digging into other people that have found God, and just like it's like the detective kicked in. Like I wanted to see evidence. I wanted to see why and get answers to all of this. That's the natural cop in me, and that was when my journey started. And then about a year later is when he finally asked me, because I just followed him everywhere he went, and that's when he asked me to start the group. And then here we, like 8 years later, we're still rolling and doing God's work. That's why we call it my Father's business, because I take that right out of Luke chapter 2, because people's
Mm.
like, okay, you're allowing all these kids, these criminals, these gang members, these kids that we're supposed to hate, right? The police are supposed to be enemies with these kids, right?
Right.
So you're inviting them into your house, and you're sharing with them, and you're feeding them, and you're loving them. They thought I was crazy, and I said, no, I'm just doing God's business. So that's how
Well,
that kind of happened. So like that's why I called it my Father's business, and it just stuck. And yeah, here we are. I got uh, so much great stories. The Lord has saved so many people through just talking about being just as broken as them,
yep.
because that's what people want to know.
Yep.
They don't want some pastor type dude or teacher type dude like telling them, shaking their head like, no, dude, you're messed up. I'm messed up too, man.
Right.
Let's talk. Let's join arms and walk together.
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's what the big disconnect is with you can relate that to the cops and citizens relationship.
Yes.
Um, it's an ego thing. It's us against them. Like I'm the good guy. You're not the good guy. I'm the good. It's
Right.
like no. We're all broken in some way. So God is a God of justice. So do your job, but don't do your job as if you're better than anybody.
Correct. Correct. I think first of all, that's a very powerful testimony. Um,
Thank you.
and thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that testimony. And I will say, we're brothers in Christ,
Hmm.
obviously, and I think I can definitely relate. And I'm very moved by your testimony because I too have suffered from depression and from the job multiple times. But lastly, that actually got me out of got me to retirement. Was very tough, and so I also had my experience hearing that voice, that magical, amazing voice. And one thing I will say is it is such a powerful thing to see when people are obedient to the Spirit, right?
Hmm.
And they follow through. One of the scriptures that really got me to where I am today and what led me to do this channel, to even start my nonprofit, was Genesis 50:20. And that scripture is, though the enemy meant to do harm against you, God used it and used it for good, for the betterment of
Hmm.
many people. And that scripture stuck with me. And so when I hear your story and us just talking and then just reading your book, I used to think that in my situation, I felt like my life was over,
Hmm.
and I felt like I had everything that I had worked so hard for what I wanted out of my life was completely done. Not realizing that God had already created a path for me that even I didn't even realize. And I felt like before I got onto this journey, and I see the same with you, that we had an idea of what we thought we were doing, but ultimately to that moment of I would say renewness or change, of rebirth, right? Everything prior to that was training. I call it God's Academy. That's what I call it. I've never told nobody this, but we're sharing it. I call it
I
God's
love it.
Academy, right? And God's Academy for me was, I spent in policing in my 20s all the way up until 2019, where I feel like I was almost killed. And I thought my life was over after that. But in reality, that was all training for what I am doing now and what I will be doing in the future. It's what God has me doing. And I see the same with you, that your experiences prior to law enforcement was needed to groom you for a journey, for a mission, for a task that only you can do, that God already put aside for you specifically, and needed to carry you through all of that. Like I call it the Job complex, right? He had,
Hmm.
he had to drag you through the mud because he knew you could handle it, but at the same time, he needed you to be outfitted with the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience in order to reach out to the youth and have the impact that you have today. And so I say that to say that's how I kind of came in terms of my own depression, my own drama, and my own sadness, is I had to understand that God was doing those things to strengthen me for the job that I'm doing now, as I see the same with you. And so, again, I just want to thank you for answering the call and being obedient and being here with us today. Truly a blessing, and then sharing your testimony. So I just wanted to say that again, just that my little
Uh,
thoughts as you were talking. So
that's great. I mean, the retrospect and looking back, and it just shows you how sovereign God is. That
yes,
he knows, he sees things we don't see things that he does. He sees the whole picture,
the whole
and
picture.
yeah. And it's funny that you say that verse in Genesis, because Romans 8:28 is the same. God works everything for good for those who believe. Like, so you look back at all of what we endured and what we're still going to endure. He's
Right.
going to work it for good to
Yes.
glorify Him. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's what makes it difficult, because in the moment when we're going through these things, it's hard to see the bigger picture, right? It's
Yeah. Oh,
always,
of course. Of
but
course.
when it's over, one thing that I've always recognized is that once you see the picture, you're like, oh, that thing that happened 2 years ago, it fits perfect for today, right?
Yeah.
And so, man, I know you have so many stories, and just really just your, I think about what you said earlier, the ability to relate. And I tell this all the time on this channel. I say people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. And when you're able to relate with someone, you can reach them. And that is where the biggest disconnect is in law enforcement. Is a lot of officers aren't relatable, right? They're serving in communities that they're not from. You are from Zion, right? Mount
Mm-hmm.
Zion, right? So
Yeah.
you're from Zion, so you know the people, you know the
Mm-hmm.
community, you know the atmosphere, you know the environment. And I too, and I heard your story. You've arrested people that you knew growing up from school. I've had to arrest people from school.
Mm-hmm.
And but that interaction was so pleasant. It was a pleasant experience because I knew them. It was like, hey man, come on,
Yeah.
Joe, blah blah. It's I got to take you, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how many times have I done that? Like they know the heart behind.
They know the
They
heart.
know the heart behind you. So it makes the job so much easier.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it
We
does.
we need so much more of that.
Mm,
We get all these on our job applications. I mean, we get these military points and we get these college points. I mean, where are the points for the local kids that know
right.
the people, that shop in the same places, that hang out in the same spots in that city that they're going to police? We need to change a lot of that stuff.
We do, and I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you
Hmm.
about that. How do we implement that, right? And before you respond, let me go and hit these super chats real quick. I see you guys dropping them in the chat. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for being here with us tonight, you guys, and listening to this conversation. Very, very surgical conversation we're about to have tonight, and even one spiritual. You guys know we're gonna throw some Christian vibes at you. Might save
Hmm.
somebody tonight. Might get
Yeah, there you
somebody
go.
saved.
Amen.
So, daughter of Yah, thank you so much, love. She's a member of the channel. She says, "I'll start the
Mhm.
collection plate this evening." Yes, and you guys, listen. We're going to donate the super chats to Matt's nonprofit, right? So
Oh man.
keep that in mind. You guys definitely want to support we talk about it all the time on this channel. Who's doing the work? Who's doing the work? And we have someone right here with us that's doing the work in the communities that we talk about, that need the attention, that need the support, that need role models, that need mentors, that need father figures. You guys, he has an organization. He's doing the work in real time. You are talking to people who are actually doing something. We're doing the best we can, and we want to always make sure we support that, just like you guys support me. It's truly a blessing, and I appreciate it. So thank you so much, Daughter Y'all, getting the collection plate started. And then Pretty Ugly Truth, another member of the channel, she drops the the strong arms and
I love it.
$20
I
to
love it.
$20. There you go. There you go. Flexing on us. Thank you so much, Pretty Ugly Truth. She has also looking forward to her starting her channel. She has a lot to offer and bring to the table. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much, my dear. And someone dropped another 20. This is another law enforcement brother right here. Dre Blanco. Matt is a friend of mine. We went to the academy together.
My man.
Yeah, he works in the DA's office now. He done left the streets. So he says, "You have no idea how happy I am. You're finally on the channel. When I saw one of your shorts, I didn't waste time to send it to Nate. You two can do powerful things together. Glad to have you, bro. Yes, yes,
Man, I
yes.
appreciate you, Dre. That's great. That's great. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah, man, this definitely a magical moment. I think it's we don't get a chance to there's even when you're working as an officer, it's hard to be very transparent about how you feel about the job. A
Hmm.
lot of police departments censor their officers
Oh yeah.
as it relates to social media and just expressing your feelings towards certain things. We've had officers get fired because they've expressed like a disagreement against like like COVID or something like that, or even a high profile case. So I appreciate you being able to and we know what questions to dance around, right? We know we good.
Oh
We
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
good. We good.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some that you gotta say. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know what?
nah, you good, brother. I already know. I already know. We good over here. But I appreciate you coming up. A lot of people think because they don't hear from officers means that they are not, because they don't hear officers vocally speak out against certain travesties within the profession.
Mhm.
They assume that all officers are in
Yeah.
agreement with that, and that's absolutely false. And so, I think it's always good to. That's why I love what I'm doing on this side. Is I get to say, hey, no, a lot of officers don't agree with that, right?
Hmm.
They can't say that because of their position, but I get the emails. We're all in agreement that this is not okay. Lane, my Lois Lane, I always call her. Thank you so much. Also, remember the channel. She's dropping $20. She's always just sending love. She's here all the time on my streams. I really appreciate it. My
Man, that's
members are,
great.
yeah, they're super supportive. And she comes back again. She said, "This is powerful. Shows the human side of an officer." Wow. Absolutely. And it's one of those things that we don't get enough, to be completely honest. We don't get enough of officers who are transparent. And before I go to the next super chat, what are your thoughts on this comment in reference to humanizing the badge? That's a new philosophy that's starting to,
Hmm.
how important is that in your opinion?
It is the top priority in my life, really, in
Yeah.
the profession. I got to give a shout out to my chief and my past two chiefs who've actually supported me in speaking out and being a human and allowing like a lot of these old school thoughts are that we can't be seen as human. You got to be a certain way.
Right.
You can't be. I mean, the tattoo thing. I see you got tats. Like it was such a big deal when I
Yes.
started. Like
Yeah.
the people love our tattoo. Everyone has ink. It makes you relatable. Like like it's something as simple as that.
Yep.
But humanizing a badge and just being a person is really it's so important because where has the other stuff gotten us? Where has the old rules of not being vulnerable and being separate from you can't what do they used to call it, the fraternizing
Can't
with
fraternize.
certain individuals,
Yes.
stop. I break that policy. If that's a policy, I break it 100 times a week. Like we're so if humanizing us and letting us be in one of the, like as another person. I'm your brother.
Hmm.
It makes your job so much easier. Number one, and
Yes.
number two, it's the only thing that's going to bring healing to what's going on. Because, like you said earlier, the media doesn't do us any favors because a lot of they put on what sells. That's it.
Yeah.
And bashing and seeing the bad things, people unfortunately gravitate to the negativity, and that's what
Yes.
sells. Um, but that is the most important thing in our profession is humanizing the badge. To me, it's number first and foremost.
Yes, thank you, Miss Lane. I think, to your point, before I go to the next one, I think that's the issue. I think because you have officers who get caught up in this whole ideology that they are no longer
Mm.
a part of the citizenry,
Yeah.
right? That they found a way to isolate themselves from the people that they're serving. And if you're disconnected from the people that you're serving, you then put yourself on a different plateau,
Hmm.
right? And that's where that ego starts to sit in through that isolation. And to your point, humanizing. I believe that the marketing behind law enforcement has started off one so poorly because it created this facade or this imaginary individual who's like the superhero of all things and they can't make any mistakes and their word is golden. And now we're starting to see conflict because now the officers of today are not living up to the advertisement, right? um,
Hmm.
and so now people are like, hey, you guys are supposed to be without flaw, you guys are supposed to be this, you're supposed to be like that. And when they're starting seeing officers make human mistakes, honest mistakes, not the bad ones, but the good officers who make an honest, it's hard to differentiate between the good officers and the officers who are intentionally bad because it's society doesn't divide us up that way, right?
Uh-uh.
You know what I mean?
Yep. They don't see us. as that. They don't see us as human because we've created that divide.
We
It,
created
it
that. Yep.
I've often said that when a young impressionable person gets a badge, that becomes like their new ethnicity.
Mhm.
That's the blue culture. I
Yeah.
used to call it, and when I was in my angry moments, I used to call it the blue brainwash. I don't want to insult nobody, but that's what I
Fact.
think of it. Like you're buying into this culture, and it hates the street culture. Everyone that is a part of that, or the hip hop or street culture, whatever you want to call it, is the enemy. They're different
Mm.
from us. That we're not nearly. We're like shiny brass. They're beneath us, and
Yes.
that is what. And people get mad at me for speaking this, but that is what they embed in you. And the academies that I've been to and the stuff that I've seen, they don't say it out loud, but that's the mentality you walk out of there with. It's us against them.
Yes.
And that is so, when you do that, if you do that with a bunch of kids, are number one, uncultured. Many of them have never even been in this city before, never been in these neighborhoods before. And you're gonna unleash some 22-year-old kid that doesn't know the culture, and they're just gonna storm into a city and tell everyone what's what. That is a recipe for disaster.
Yes. Yes.
And you're trained to think that anyone's hands you can't see is gonna kill you. And it just makes, I know I'd said that in the book. It makes a bunch of young paranoid kids that think everyone's going to hurt them, and which leads to a lot of mistakes. And I'm not saying don't be safe. I'm saying
Right.
you got to find a balance there, because to me it's shifted way too far to the
I
scare
agree.
tactics.
I agree. I agree. It's fear mongering within the police
Oh
force,
yeah.
and what ends up happening is you have officers that make fearful responses instead of
Mm-hmm.
logical responses,
Yep.
and that feeds into, almost, you could say, there's a bias that's created in training, some in some departments. And you're right, it definitely needs to be addressed, and we're definitely going to talk about that, because I'm curious to get your thoughts as well. Lisa Carter with the $5 super sticker, thank you so much. Lisa, also member of the channel. And I wanted to shout out Talented T real quick. She says, so thankful for you guys giving back and being a blessing to others, sharing your testimony and letting people know that you can do good even after you went through the storm. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's what it's all about. Lisa, again, with another $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, Lisa. She's always holding me down, you guys. She's always giving me good feedback and information in the emails. I love you guys so much for all the support. Bruh Man from the fifth floor, what does he say? He said, officer training should include learning your coworkers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How they act and recognize when there are changes in their mental stability, getting them help if needed. What are your thoughts on that?
I That is one of my I would say that's number two on my life mission. The
Mm,
mental stability and the help that you need. I get fired up and angry. You might see my skin turn red when I bring up this. That it was 12 years into my career that I even learned that we lose twice as many officers to suicide as we do to violence. That should be
day
on the
one.
top of Yeah, that should be on the top of every application for anyone who even
Yeah.
starts this job. And
Yeah.
that is not to mention how many lives are that don't end in suicide but are wrecked, have mental disorders, have depression syndrome, that ruin their family through alcoholism. That should all be said on top of every application, so we can get ahead of it and
Yes.
tell people about this cancer, this toxic, this culture that has to change. um that it's not stress. We do all this work to protect our bodies. I got stuff right here. We got handcuff training. We got flashlight in the dark tactics. We got taser training here. I got everything here on my little desk here. But we got training for that, up and down for hours and hours. What do we train for right here? We
Mm,
we, we, we click a box. We watch a 5-minute YouTube video, or we have some instructor that puts everyone to sleep for an hour at the academy, and it's
mm.
never talked about. That needs to change. It's to me it's a travesty.
All right. What you said now is, and I'm clear, and I want everybody to be clear, that there's so much emphasis on our physical capabilities to do this
Mhm.
job, but there is little to almost none on the mental work even the heart work, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough investment in the heart work and the mind work. We don't even dive into the spiritual work, right? That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother. I got some stories, brother. I got some stories. We definitely gonna have a part two, but we gotta have a we gotta. You know what I would love for us to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't had a chance to talk about it, and I promised a couple people on this channel that I would have a show where I talk about a lot of the supernatural things that I've experienced on the job, and my accident included, but other things that at the time I feel like if I wasn't, my journey as a Christian is probably might be a little bit different than yours. It's a journey nonetheless,
Uh-huh.
but I think because of having some knowledge getting into this profession, I was able to see things that a lot of officers did not pick up on, and I think that saved me a lot as well. But I also used to think that I was really just good at the job. I was like, man, I'm actually really good at what I'm doing, and then I realized that it was the Spirit actually talking to me all
Mm-hmm.
all these times. You know what I mean? Like you had that moment when you're like, let me check the trash can, right? Let me check under the bed. Let me check here. Hey, don't turn the corner right there, right? You have these thoughts and you think that it's your own intuition. And I learned not too long ago that it wasn't me at all, And so I would love to have a
Oh,
conversation and
he's
see things that you've experienced that maybe you kind of look back on like I think this was God kind of pointing me in this direction. You know what I mean? Just to kind of
absolutely.
yeah,
He had you set aside.
yeah,
That's a fact.
yeah,
When I was telling him what happened to me earlier, when I had this feeling that Christ was seeing everything that I ever did.
yeah,
He wasn't just looking at the sin; he was actually protecting me through all of that and
yeah,
guiding my steps. That's what
yeah.
he was doing for you. That's
Yeah.
exactly what he was doing for you.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. We gotta have that.
Oh
Oh
yeah, I
man,
would
we
love
might
to
not
have
be.
that.
No, we gotta have that. We gotta have that. We gotta have that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We definitely gotta have that. Let me before we're gonna jump back in the discussion. Shout out to Dre. Hit us with the big 5-0. Dre says for Matt's nonprofit, it is often difficult to humanize the badge with folks who are willing to acknowledge the internal scars officers endure just doing the job. We're never the same coming out as we were going in. That is so true.
Oh my gosh.
Can't unsee what's been seen.
Uh-uh.
Um, I never told anybody this, Matt, but I actually, my first 7 years into the force, I wanted to quit because of the same things that you described. I was experiencing too much death. I don't like death. I don't like seeing it. I truly just have a good heart, wanting to help people,
Mhm.
and you see society, man. You see real life. You see real things. Um, and to your point earlier, what can we do? What things could be implemented to help officers with this mental health piece? Before we get into it, how do we strengthen the mind and our hearts before we get into this profession? What things can we do to invest more so that we're more prepared getting into this job?
There's got to be better direct, like do it intentionally with making sure the mental health thing. We have checklists for, I mean, my goodness, when I book somebody in, I got to sign 18 checklists. Like every bad situation, every debrief that they're supposed to have, there
Right.
should be a checklist. Like every single person needs to be made that their soldiers are okay. Like you need to be checked on intentionally,
Yeah.
not just. I mean, most murders that we see, I see more dead bodies than I can care to count. Sadly, I can count on one hand how many times that I've been asked, and it's no fault of anyone. I'm not pointing any fingers, but like, are you good? Like
Right.
people just don't talk about that stuff. They're not intentional. I don't know what it is, but that's first and foremost. Like they need to make a checklist for something like that and be very intentional
Yes.
going in. Like this is what we have questionable death checklist that we take to every death scene. There should be a questionable mental state checklist that we do to every cop
Right.
after it happens.
Right.
That allowing more, uh, I say, like cracking down on the cynicism and being more open about how weak we actually are mentally.
Yes.
That is one of the fake phony toughness is one of the main issues in our job that you cannot admit. I remember my first year. There was two. It was a horrible incident, and that made national news in Zion. Two young girls were slaughtered in this wooded area. It turned out to be this guy was basically a serial killer that did it.
Mm.
Me and my partners were the ones who found up there, found first ones to the bodies. And I was just brand new. I was rookie. Um, I'm standing over, and people don't realize when you come to a scene like that, you don't just see it and walk away. You babysit that.
Hey,
You're there. You're married to that scene for hours and
yeah.
hours and hours. And those images will never come out of my head.
Nope.
So I'm standing there, and we're going through what happened. You got to tell the task force. You got to tell your sergeant. You got to tell other officers what you came across, what you've seen, and you got to type it. That goes with all that
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm there with an old veteran who everybody kind of looked up to, wanted to be like, um, and he makes like this cavalier statement like, "Oh, I've seen this. I'll go home and sleep just fine tonight. I've seen this 100 times." And as a young rookie hearing that, I'm like, okay, I guess that's how I'm supposed to be.
Right.
The whole time I'm just there trying not to cry.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and so that mentality has got to go. I mean, that I look back at it now, and nothing personal against him, but that's inexcusable for a veteran to have an attitude like that. You
Right.
put your arm around them rookies and you say, "This is not what humans are supposed to see. Are you
Yeah.
okay? Let's go talk about it."
Yeah.
That is what we've failed miserably at this job with that fake toughness, that dirty hairy mentality that you just we'll just move on to the next call. No, you got to cry.
Right.
If you're hurting, talk to me about it. I'll cry with you because this is not we're not sociopaths. These are human beings, and we are human beings that need to show emotion. Um, I think that the phony toughness is what really gets under my skin.
We're not. I think I'm glad you said that. I don't think people realize this is not something that we're supposed to be exposed to. Psychologically, it's not healthy. It's difficult to deal with. I had a hard time dealing with it. The smells, the scenes, the suicides, very, very difficult. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It was the worst part of the job. And on top of that, I hated not being able to save a life too. The worst scenes I remember is responding to a location where someone is clinging on to life, and then you're so. I started at some point in the job. I started feeling helpless, like I wasn't really doing anything. I'm showing up after the fact. The best thing I could do is go hunt the criminal down, but I wasn't saving lives in the moment. And you realize when you do this job long enough how powerless you actually are. And I think that's why I decided to really focus my efforts now on the repairing of the relationships between the community and law enforcement, in order to have better, healthier outcomes and encounters. So the mental health piece behind this, I think, and again, shout out to you, Dre. Thank you so much, you guys. And just FYI, again, we are going to be handing over the donations tonight to Matt's nonprofit. You guys, I love the nonprofit. I love the theme behind it. Um, and so my father's business, you guys, please, I have right here at the bottom, you can see a link to his nonprofit there, mfbyouth.org. Please go and check it out. The information is also in the description of the video here for the stream, and all the links to where you can reach Matt on his social media. Please go and check him out. And if you have it on your heart, please donate directly to the nonprofit as well. There's a donate link as well on the description. So we want to support as much as we can people who are doing the work and having the impact that we always talk about. So Matt, I want to ask you something. I say it all the time. We don't invest enough of our resources into officers. People say, well, there's not enough money. Defund the police. No, refund the police, right? Put the money in the right areas. Um, I would say this might be controversial. I'm going to say, if you were chief for a day, right? What type of reform ideas would you implement into law enforcement, as it relates to community policing? Your organization, your nonprofit is very community oriented. What things are we missing in law enforcement today that you think would be a good idea for us to start implementing?
More connection with grassroots organizations that are from people on the street, not just supporting your local, which is, there's no charity is bad. I'm not going to knock any of that, but we don't do enough to support the grassroots people who have the ability to go. I know a ton of organizations, ex gang members, people getting out of penitentiary, start organizations. They have the ear of the streets. We don't
Yes.
support them enough. The organizations that you don't have to check 18 boxes to send them or support them. Organizations that you can just call and say, you know what, what's this set shot at this set? What's this all about? Can you go in there? And we need to support more organizations like that affect the streets directly.
Yes.
I would that is a huge movement for me, a huge a burden for me that we it's not being allocated in the right. I don't say defund the police. I say reallocate the funds for
Reallocate.
police. We don't need more. I could take one ex gang member that the streets respect and get some advice from him, or let him be a liaison to make peace, not to be no snitch or nothing, just to try to
Right.
make peace. He's
Right.
worth he's worth 50 tasers, 50 tanks.
Yep.
He's worth more money than anything that we can fund, which we
Yes.
don't need more of anyway.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I,
So you put me in charge. You give me that power. I'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll change the streets tomorrow. We'll build
Facts.
facilities for the kids to do something. More stuff for the kids to do stuff. More stuff with more interaction. If I was chief for a week, we'd have flag football games with the cop being the full-time quarterback on every street corner of my city.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's what we need.
That's what we need, man. And I think I have and we got to definitely on another show we do. I want to share a lot of my reform ideas with you and just kind of piggyback some things and get your thoughts. So I've been putting together, which I've completed, and I've been using the conversations and interactions with my audience to fine tune a lot of things, get their ideas of what they want from police. And what I've realized in this whole encounter since I've got on YouTube is that society has an expectation that I'm trying to think with the camera. Society has an expectation that's here for law enforcement, and I believe we're operating like down here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got to get to a point to where we start as a profession, because the onus is on us to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so we have to then rise to the occasion, rise to where society has its expectations. We need to meet society where they're at. And I don't think what they're asking for is unreasonable. And so I think that's where we definitely have to start. And I'm really curious to get your input on some of these, because a lot of these ideas are very common sense, right?
Yeah.
Um, True Seeker, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. She says, much respect, my brothers in Christ. Yes, amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is going to the collection plate tonight. We about to hold service. We about to hold service.
Amen.
About to hold service tonight. Yo, Joe Thompson, this is a good brother right here with this $25 super chat. He says, for you, Matt, thanks for your insight and great show, Blue Phoenix. I appreciate you, brother. It's a good brother right here. Always supporting like
Amen.
everyone else on the channel. Thank you so much, you guys. This is truly a blessing. I really appreciate it. And again, we're going to donate the proceeds to my father's business. First of all, I love the name. I love the name. I love the name.
You got to give me an address. I get you one of our trademark hoodies out there. Oh yeah, you look good. You look good in it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll rock it. All right, and I'm gonna send you one. I'll send you one of my shirts as well.
All right, deal. Deal.
That's what's up. Fair trade off. Fair trade off. So Matt, real quick. So again, I want to dive back in the book, you guys. Again, Matt is an author. Phenomenal book. I really, really enjoyed it. I love the transparency. I love how genuine you are in this book, and it's like having a conversation like we are now. I think it makes it more realistic. You know, every time we read certain books and you got to go through all this, I like how you're just having a conversation in the book, and it's just straightforward, man. I love it. I say it's like a memoir of truth and transparency. I can relate to a lot of the things in there, just from a law enforcement perspective, and also out just a human perspective of what it's like doing this job. You found a phenomenal way to capture that in the book. and I really, really enjoyed it. You have a chapter in there. We're not gonna give too much away because we want people to get the book. We want people to get the, he telling all the book. No. We just
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
there's a chapter in there, PTSD, and I like how you touched on the PTSD part because we left off at talking about suicide and how if a lot of people don't know or don't realize, but officer suicides, that's the leading cause of death of law enforcement officers.
Mhm.
Many people don't know that. I didn't know that until after my accident, and I was going through depression, and I struggled. I had no idea I've been doing this job this entire time and never knew that more officers died from suicide than anything else, you guys. And I want to bring up some data real quick, and then Matt, I want to get your thoughts on it. And then we want to correlate it to that chapter in your book because I like the way you made the correlation between military and police. So I thought that was very interesting. And then also just kind of how subtle the PTSD is with us. And when I was reading that chapter, I thought it was interesting because I started thinking about how to this day I still have issues when I go in public. I'm paranoid, I'm uncomfortable, I hear noises, I jump, and I never associated that with PTSD till I read this and your book. So one, thank you again, like I said, the transparency and the rawness, the realness, you really really captured it in here. But I want to show people what the data is real quick. And so you guys, this is an organization, nonprofit. I've been in contact with them, and when I first started my nonprofit, and I've been asking them a lot of things, they've been very very supportive, just kind of helping out. But this is called bluehelp.org, for law enforcement officers, and they capture a lot of data in reference to officer related suicides. And as you see over here to the right, you guys, each year, of course, the highest right here is 2019. We can all assume why. It's had a lot to do with what was going on with COVID and everything like that. Very, very difficult time for law enforcement. 236 officers um, lost their life due to suicide here. And then, as you can see, at 2021 ended with 160. So this is a thing. This is absolutely a thing, and I've experienced this on the job as well, where I've had coworkers who have taken their lives um, while they were still working and after they've retired, um, and not being able to just kind of deal with a lot of things just in regarding this profession, or they were dealing with things for so long and they never got the help. No one knew. Um, what what are your thoughts just in general in reference to the numbers?
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I get emotional looking at that. I love Blue Help. I've worked with them. I love Karen and all them guys are
Yes.
great. Um, it just seems like I get kind of a survivor's guilt um,
Yes.
because I just think about the ones who didn't make it, and I do often ask God like why
Yep.
did he give me a chance? So um, that motivates me to just scream from the mountaintops about these numbers. It's staggering. It's staggering, and what's worse is we never were told about this stuff.
Nope.
Um, it just seems like when you're an officer that death is so near you.
Yeah.
It like I used to look at death scenes and say, and even some, and in a morbid way, and when you're hopeless and you're feeling sad, like that doesn't look that unappealing to me.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't look too hard.
Right.
You're just so close to it and you see it so much, it's not even a big deal anymore.
Yep.
So that has a lot to do with why why uh, why the numbers are so messed up. And like we said earlier, the culture and the fact that you can't really talk about it.
Right.
Um, but that's why I love organizations like this that are pushing back against that. My best advice is Satan operates in the dark, bring it into the light, and we'll shout this out. Like, this is, numbers must change.
Absolutely.
Talk about this stuff. I still get therapy to this day. I vent my issues to Neil Renee. Shout out to my girl, the most wonderful woman on earth. She's my earpiece. Get a good listener.
Yes.
But definitely, the fight against these numbers, like our goal, mine, and we have the same mind, is to get these numbers, just chop away at them, get them down. Makes me upset. When I first learned these numbers, I'd teach a class, CIT class, with one of my partners who's a professor. She goes over the numbers with the class. She teaches officers, and I cry every single time she goes over these numbers. It's too much, because everyone has been touched by it.
Yes.
Every officer knows somebody that done that.
Yep. And it's weird. We're such a big family, but yet we're so small, right? When we look at the numbers in policing, and it's still, anytime an officer loses his or her life, it bothers me. You talked about survival's guilt. I've had that too. Now, every time I see an officer being dragged down the interstate or the road, or who's lost their life during, a situation like that, you can't help but say, how come he didn't survive? How come I survived? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. It's like a second nature. It's like a natural reaction. I lost.
Well, that's the cop in you, brother. That's you putting somebody before yourself.
That's right. That's right. I think when you truly love people, it's hard not to. Like, when you truly have a heart to serve, it's hard not to. It's definitely very difficult. Absolutely very difficult. And I think I ended up partnering with another nonprofit organization called the All Clear Foundation, to help with the mental health aspect. They do a lot of peer-to-peer connection with other officers nationwide, to help with officers who are going through different things, and they need another officer to link up with and connect with. And so they're really great, and they offer a lot of resources. And so that was a big thing for me too, because getting over that depression, man, I think people, if you haven't been through it, like, it's hard to put it to words. And we all know ourselves to be tough, but man, there's I feel like there's that one moment where you're just completely weak, and you have nowhere to go. You feel like you have no one to turn to. Man, it doesn't feel good at all. It doesn't feel good at all. And it took a lot for me to get out of that dark space. And but it took a lot of help. I had a lot of help, a lot of support.
And here's why you'll be effective, brother, because you know as well as I do that cops will listen mainly to only other cops.
Yes.
So that's why our voices and talking about this stuff is so important.
Yes.
That's what you do, and what you're talking about, your platform is it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I try to look at it as, always I want to be able to give something that'll have a great impact that everybody can benefit off of. And I feel like for me, this is a way I can help and serve people and be more like omnipresent online. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who would ever thought that it would be possible? Like,
right?
This is the new thing. Like, this is the world we live in. And
man,
I love it. We gotta take advantage.
Absolutely, it's the best way to reach people. What is I would say this in closing. I wanted to. There's so much in these discussions about mental health, about community policing, about police reform, just overall. How in your thoughts, you have done a lot within the community. What are your plans for your organization moving forward? What's the next step for you and My Father's Business? I just love that name, man. I think it's such a cool name, dude. What's your vision moving forward? Like, what's next? What's next?
My ultimate goal, for my city, right, is
Mm,
to make our own building and be able to do this. Right now, we just use spaces small for church. But if you give me a pole barn with 4 courts, and I'll clear the streets of my small city every day of the week when I retire. Um, but I've been talking, like, just spreading the word and getting more people to do. And I'm not trying to, like, monopolize MFB, but the idea I want to
yes.
like spread that, like what we do is so simple, and it could be uprooted into any urban area, any city, anywhere, anywhere literally. But
Right.
in the inner city where kids love to hoop and kids love to need somewhere to go, it's such a simple recipe. I would love for people to just start doing stuff like this.
Yes.
Whether it's we actually helped a person, Maddie, who started with us, Matt Hickson, Gamer Glorified. Shout out to him. He started with MFB as a mentor, and now he started his own gamer thing. Same thing we do, except it's around gaming.
Yeah.
We and just different things like that. Get them something to do where you're gonna take away from the social media age that we live in, the stick your nose in your phone and do nothing else age that most of these kids are stuck in.
Right.
But my ultimate goal is just to see other officers use this recipe, or other people, period, just use a very simple recipe, which is just put others before yourself, and you can make such a huge change. I who would have ever thought that some I always call myself a moron because I'm just a goofball. I actually got that tatted on my arm, but some moron that was sitting in a parking lot, about to do the unthinkable, God would use him, and millions of people would hear about it,
Mm,
and it's very simple. I would just like to see that other people realize that you don't have to be a billionaire to start a revolution. You can do it in your own space, and you can start a fire and obviously we serve a powerful God, and He's the crux behind everything. So that He be glorified. Whoever hears this story, that's my main goal, and that's my big picture. Is I'll just keep screaming this message to the end. If it never goes past Zion or my little Jim, then that's fine. But I just know that many people hear this message, and that's the end game. So very simple.
I love it. I love it. I think I definitely have to second that. I think every time I do a stream, and I don't really mention, I haven't told anybody this, but I always pray before I get on and ask
Hmm.
God to let my, speak through me, and then let
Hmm.
my voice reach those who it needs to reach. And
Yeah.
so I think definitely us connecting is divine purpose,
Hmm.
and well, first of all, your platform is bigger than mine. Let's be clear. Like, I don't know if people know.
Hey, I'm grounded for mine right now. I'm grounded for mine right
I'm talking like
now.
I got the big channel. You got like
No,
over 100
I,
some thousand subscribers.
I'll get it. I'll get on there and put more on. I promise. I promise. I'm ungrounded for about a month right now, but I'll get back on it probably next week.
Oh
So,
man, yeah.
but in all seriousness, brother, listen. One thing I want to tell you,
Yeah,
and I love you to death, and I love you, my brother in Christ. I love you, but always remember this: every time you key up that mic, every time you hit that button, just know it's such a joy, because every time you do it, somebody's eternity might change.
mm,
That is motivation for every time I show up, every time I don't feel like doing this, every time I'm nervous about speaking somewhere, I just say, wait, hold on. Someone might have the same experience I had in that car tonight.
yes,
And how could I shut up about that? So just remember, if we did all this work and we simply saved the eternity for one soul, would it be worth it? Absolutely.
absolutely.
Think about it. So we're doing this on a huge scale, and I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that we're brothers, and I'm grateful that I'm able to come here, and um, this is just great stuff. God is
Absolutely.
awesome.
All the time he is.
Amen.
Um, Listen, Matt. Any I was gonna say your closing words, but I mean you said that so flawlessly, man. Let the people know where they can find you, best way to reach you, and also to get your book. You guys, please go and check them out and support.
Yeah,
But yeah, let the people know where they can find you.
yeah. I'm mostly on all my social medias are on our website.
Okay.
And the book, I appreciate all the support for the book. I don't make any money off it. It all goes to MFB. Um, I'm on TikTok a lot, but my website will connect you to all of that. I'm on Facebook. I'm very accessible. I'm public in everything. I mean, everyone knows who I am, so I don't try to hide. It is what it is. Um, but I just I try to get to my messages as good as I can. I probably need some of my team to help me sometimes. So, but yeah, that's where I can be located. On my website is the best.
All right. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Listen, Matt, it has been a complete honor. And I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you coming up and just sharing your testimony, giving us a different perspective and providing some insight. Listen, it is an honor and a privilege. You are welcome back here anytime, man. Anytime you want to have a conversation.
Hit me up. I'm
Yeah.
down. I'm game.
You game?
Anytime. We do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow.
All right, let's do it. All right, brother. Listen, man. You know how to reach you, man. You got my contact, man. Let's stay in touch. All right, most
All right,
definitely.
brother. Love you and love everyone that watch. I love you guys too.
Love you too, bro. Thank you so much, man. All right. Have a good night, bro.
You too.
All right. All right. All right. Ah, that was great. That was great. That was great. Listen, you guys, I tell you the book is good. You know, it's I love just how direct and straight to the point it is. I think, you know, first of all, let me just say this. I'm so grateful. You know, I reach out to a lot of people, you guys, that I feel have a lot of who have a lot they can bring to the conversation. But Matt was someone I definitely wanted to get in contact with, and we've been speaking for a while. We finally got to put it together, and is by far one of the interviews I was really looking forward to doing, and definitely that part two, you guys. I want to share with you the things that I've experienced on this job, some supernatural things that's absolutely worth talking about, and I believe is necessary, especially in this day and age, with so much going on. But listen, you guys, I hope that you have found this conversation being valuable. Please go and check out Matt, his story, his journey, and the things that he's doing in his community over at Zion, right? Shout out to Zion. We're definitely going to be linking up again, you guys. And listen, all the donations tonight, you guys, thank you so much. Truly a blessing. I appreciate it so much. We are going to, on behalf of the Blue Phoenix Initiative, we're going to donate today's donations to my father's business, you guys. So I want all of us to be in support of that, and just to let you know, I really appreciate, really appreciate the support. It means so much to me. And again, you guys, it's so much. It's a lot of hard work doing the things that we do, and I think sometimes we get on YouTube, we get on social media. It looks easy, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Where we're working and doing a lot for the community, and even the sacrifices that we do and the money that comes out of our own pocket. So I want to do that as a gift to him. So definitely, you guys, thank you so much. One thing I didn't do is take questions. Anybody have any questions for Matt? Matt's gone, but anybody got any questions? I'm gonna make sure I forward the question to him. I got so caught up in the conversation, you guys. I'm such a bad interviewer. I'm gonna get better. I promise. I'm gonna take a class. Anybody have any questions for Matt? Put it underneath the video, and I'm gonna make Matt go over there and answer the questions for y'all. Is that all right, Matt? Matt's like, yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, any questions you guys have for Matt? I'm sorry, I just got caught up in it's just good to have conversations with people who've experienced the lifestyle, who know the lifestyle, completely, really enjoyed this conversation, and so much more I want to have with them. And so we're definitely going to have Matt back for more. So listen, you guys, thank you again so much. Everybody who donated, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support and supporting the conversation. It absolutely means the world to me. And we are definitely going to support my father's business. I love it. I love it. I love it. And with that, you guys, you already know the saying, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. Good night and God bless.